21, first reading. A bill for an act of parliament to amend the Advocates Act. Yeah? What's your point of order?
Mr. Speaker, I'm standing on Standing Order 259-1 and Standing Order 1. And Mr. Speaker, 1 year ago, you issued COVID protocol guidelines in as far as the sitting in this chamber is concerned. Speaker, your first guideline was on 60 members inside the chamber. You reviewed it, Mr. Speaker, to 120. And Mr. Speaker, you leading the pack of many leaders in our country who asked for the country to be opened. Now the country has been opened, curfew has been lifted. Majority, 99% of the members of this House have been vaccinated. Our staff have also been vaccinated. Mr. Speaker, I really want to indulge you that the legislature is very, very critical in dispensing its legislative matters of representation, legislation and oversight. And Mr. Speaker, I really want you to give direction and open the House to all members in line with the current COVID protocol so that every member can sit on a chair with a mic and so that we can participate. Mr. Speaker, we really want your guidance on that because we have gone very far. Vaccinations, I think, not only for this House, but even for the country, we have reached a very substantial level. Maybe the only thing the Speaker will ask you is maybe to restrict the number of visitors not coming to the President of Parliament. But Mr. Speaker, allow us to exercise our functions in accordance with Article 93, 94, 95, so that we be part of the country. The judiciary is gradually opening up, but Mr. Speaker, I want you to give a further guidance that this House comes back to normal, our staff are back to normal, and we comply with the current COVID protocol and be part of the country. Mr. Speaker, I really want to ask you to give direction on that matter.
This is some other people wanted to weigh in. Member for Ndaragwa.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Just to appreciate the point raised by Honorable Duale, but ask that even as you consider that request, Mr. Speaker, sir, it is important that we still maintain some social distance. I think it's one of the very important things that we can do so that it makes one comfortable even when you are doing business, not just within the House, but even outside of the House.
Honorable Shamala.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. While I take cognizance of the fact that it is important that every member of Parliament be able to contribute from within the chamber, my concern is that even now, with the current COVID regulations, we are not complying with these regulations. Honorable Duale has said we sit at a place where there is a speaker, a mic, I beg your pardon, and yet I'm concerned because we don't want to get into a situation where we have shouting matches or confrontations within the chamber, and members, not all members, the majority of members have complied, but there are some who are not wearing masks and who are not maintaining social distancing. So, Mr. Speaker, in as much as you do make a decision on this, I humbly request that you take these issues into consideration.
Honorable Shamala, you're saying there are some who do not have masks?
At some times, not right now, but on several, yes. If you look in that direction, Mr. Speaker, you will see members without masks. I can see at least two on this side. One has covered and there's another. I don't want to.
Is this the Honorable Abdul Samad?
I don't know.
Is it the one you may be referring to?
Might be. I can't see too clearly, Honorable Speaker.
Or the Honorable Bashir? I'm trying to look around to see who doesn't have a mask. Anyhow, your point is made, Honorable Shamala. Honorable Washira Kabinga.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. While I support the Honorable Duale on this, Honorable Speaker, I think you need to be guided by the fact that we are not saying COVID is eradicated in this country. COVID is still with us, Honorable Speaker, and therefore you may want to consider probably increasing the number and not opening up completely, Honorable Speaker. As we do so also, we do urge that we continue respecting the rules that are there currently, Honorable Speaker, because even my brother, Honorable Duale, as he was addressing on the issue, he was not putting on the mask, Honorable Speaker, and I think that is not very good for us. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Member for Tharaka.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I also support that we need to reconsider our positions. We know very well that the COVID rules and regulations, some of them are still in force. And most importantly, we have to learn to live with the disaster, the COVID disease, just as part of life, and therefore we have to be careful at all times and ensure that our own safety is taken care of and that of Kenyans. We are not oblivious of the fact that we are just towards the election year and political rallies have started. And what we are seeing is not anywhere near compliance with the COVID regulations and rules. But that notwithstanding, we cannot throw caution to the wind. Let us be observant and encourage the country to continue observing the COVID rules and regulations. Thank you.
Member for Liwa.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As much as the rules have been lifted, Mr. Speaker, it is important to realize that the virus which we are dealing with is a very mutative virus. And Mr. Speaker, in other countries, the breakthrough infections have been realized. And those countries are back to another wave. So what we should do, Mr. Speaker, yes, you can increase the number, but those protocols, the wearing of the masks, the distancings, and others must be enforced. And Mr. Speaker, largely, if I look at the age bracket of the members here, they are still at risk. So we should not lower down our guards. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Member for Emuru Dikir.
Mr. Speaker, thank you also. I would wish also, Mr. Speaker, to just voice my concerns on the same, Mr. Speaker, that notwithstanding the removal of the curfew and all that, Mr. Speaker, as politicians, we are usually hypocrites. Mr. Speaker, we give regulations in this House strictly, and we try to follow them strictly. But, Mr. Speaker, when we go outside there, we do rallies like normal. So I wonder sometimes, Mr. Speaker, whether when we go for rallies outside there, we suspend Corona. And then when we come here, we now bring Corona here. Mr. Speaker, I think it's also very important. As much as we would want to follow the regulations and the rules and all those protocols, let us not be hypocritical. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Allow members to come. Allow members to come to this House. We're almost closing this House. We need to deal with all the business that is here. Because we want to close it, we go back home. Speaker.
Member for Kilifi North.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, I would like to support the sentiments of Honorable Duale. I agree with him that it's time to allow members to come into this chamber. Like what the member for Mutembei said, we've seen massive rallies out there done by politicians, the same people that come to this chamber and tell us that we have to sit and they don't do it outside there when they do all this. Mr. Speaker, yourself have been out there. You've had rallies out there, and you do not tell them to sit 1 meter apart. You know, it's important that we open so that people can exercise their mandate. And I saw the positivity rate is around 0.6%. That is 20 people out of 3,600 yesterday. Only 20 people. And the vaccinations are going on, and almost everybody in this House has been vaccinated. I think it's time that this House be opened and people exercise their mandate without any restriction. Of course, we'll keep the mask, but I would like to sit near my brother here. My seat has been here. Today I'm displaced. I'm the acting leader of minority for today. But I want to go back to my seat. I want to sit with my brother and exchange ideas and we debate like we've always done before. Mr. Speaker, open the House.
Member Boyata.
Mr. Speaker, I'm of a contrary view, and as you make your ruling, we need to borrow from those countries who have effectively controlled COVID. Mr. Speaker, in Europe, you cannot enter parliament unless you are vaccinated. We have members of this House who have refused to be vaccinated. We can't force them. But being vaccinated, Mr. Speaker, does not mean you cannot contract COVID. So as you make your ruling, Mr. Speaker, consider the fact that COVID is still there. The latest report is that today COVID has hit Germany, the highest rate, if you look at the news, than ever before. So, Mr. Speaker, as you make your ruling, consider the fact that we have visitors coming to Parliament. Must they be vaccinated before they enter Parliament, as is a practice in countries which have been worst hit? And also, what do we do with members who have declined to be vaccinated and they still want to come to Parliament, Mr. Speaker?
Member for Community.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, as I speak on this matter, the country has been opened, Mr. Speaker. And in terms of vaccination, Mr. Speaker, we assume this House vaccination has been done 100%. And anybody willing, who was unwilling to be vaccinated, Mr. Speaker, then that person should not be allowed to come inside the House. Mr. Speaker, I flew to the US about 2 weeks ago, and I was invited, I went to the Senate in the US. Things are totally different, Mr. Speaker. They are only maintaining putting on masks and sanitization. So my humble request, Mr. Speaker, we allow everything to go on, but we maintain putting on masks, Mr. Speaker, and the issue of sanitization, which the House has done very well. But as I conclude, Mr. Speaker, I also want the House to know that I'm the new Secretary General of Fort Kenya, Mr. Speaker. I was elected by the NDC, and I want to thank them. I'm the de jure Secretary General of Fort Kenya, and I'm humbly requesting members to join the Simba Party so that we are part of the next government, Mr. Speaker. I thank you.
Member for Saku.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. I wish to add my voice to what Honorable Duale has raised. Honorable Speaker, this is the House of People's Representatives in Kenya, constituted by 349, but only 112 are currently able to sit here. I think in that case, then almost 2/3 of the House is missing at every sitting. My colleagues have raised the issue of COVID is not gone away. People have been vaccinated. Those are all issues out there. But I think you use your wisdom, like you have always done, under Standing Order number 1, to even increase the sitting by 2/3 or by another 1/3, because currently it's just 1/3, so that those who are willing to come in, because when we are looking at the order paper, there are some very important issues that are coming up, and many members must be present to be able to debate and contribute to them. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Member for Emuhaya.
Yeah, thank you, Honorable Speaker, for this chance, and thank you for the move by Honorable Duale on the issue of COVID and the opening up. I think, Honorable Speaker, when you'll be considering this, you should also put in mind that we have been here for the last session. And when you look at the last session, rarely did we have a full House, even though the COVID rules were in place. Meaning that even the protocols you had put down for Parliament, they have already been kind of overtaken by events. They have been overtaken by events such that at no given time, like in the last session, when the whole House was full. Now, look at this, Honorable Speaker, when you'll be making this decision, that the tents that used to be outside there for extra sitting are no longer there and nobody thinks about it. That also includes the space that was just outside here. So meaning that somewhat we are able to accommodate the members who are available. Now, given that we are going towards election and there are times when certain decisions may want to be taken here, where everybody has to participate, I would propose that, Honorable Speaker, you kindly retain the protocols, but at the same time open the House to all members, so that there's no any excuse for anyone, especially should we be dealing with a bill like that one of petroleum. You remember how it went, where somebody will say that for me, I could not enter the House because of the protocols. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Member for Lamu.
Asante Bwana Spika. Kwangu mimi naona ikifunguliwa isifunguliwe yote ni sawa. Kupata akidi kwa hii nyumba, wale ambao hawaelewi akidi ni nini, nasema koram, ni tabu kwanza sasa. Kwa hivyo ikifunguliwa ni kuwapatia wale wengine wanaotafuta hizo sababu, manake hapa saa nyingine utafuta hiyo akidi inakuwa shida. Kwa hivyo popote vile ni sawa tu. Asante Bwana Spika.
Honorable Keenan.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, let's not trivialize a very important issue, Mr. Speaker. Since Corona came, Mr. Speaker, we have lost so many dear friends who ought to have been here. I know death is natural. I'm surprised a bit because this is not an issue that even requires debate. It's common sense. Mr. Speaker, if I were you, and I want to appeal to you, this is the August House. This is not a village market. This is not an extension of the village barazas. We are dealing with the lives and health of the leadership of the Republic of Kenya. It's not something that we can trivialize. I really want to plead with you. Disregard that appeal. Urge all the members who have not been vaccinated to get vaccinated. And in fact, Mr. Speaker, let us lead by example and ensure that we are #1 in observing the health protocol, Mr. Speaker. Otherwise, trivializing these things, I know, right now, everybody is trying to create a niche and a space for certain things. That is not the issue. This is not an issue that requires petty politics. It's about our lives, it's about our health, it's about our existence. So I want to plead with you, Mr. Speaker, disregard the request from my colleagues and continue to uphold, show the leadership. Let's also show the country, just like this thing, there are countries that tried, Mr. Speaker. Israel, United States of America, Italy, there are a number of countries that lifted. Within a very short time, they saw a sudden surge, and they lost so many people. Let's not be misled by the decrease in the numbers. Maybe God has a reason for this. So I want to plead with you, Mr. Speaker. Kindly, let's lead by example. Let's observe the COVID health, protocols. A time will come, maybe the whole country, a decision will be made. But for now, this is Parliament. Let's be a good example to the other Kenyans, Mr. Speaker, and therefore I oppose the request from my colleague that this be lifted. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
No, that's the way it is done in Parliament. You oppose or support. So the rest, since the appeal was made to me, leave it to me. So that, but it's important for me to hear a few of you. Let me hear the member for Mavoko.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. With a lot of respect to Honorable Duale. Mr. Speaker, the 1 million question we should ask ourselves, how many Kenyans have been vaccinated so far? How many parliamentarians here in this House have been vaccinated? Mr. Speaker, I agree with members who say we should not trivialize this matter of COVID. Mr. Speaker, COVID is a disease that mutates every day. A first world like Russia, Mr. Speaker, are dying every day. Where are we as Kenyans? How can we assume that filling this House is a way of making this House be active? Mr. Speaker, look at these seats. At what point do we fill this House for the last 4 months, Mr. Speaker? I think, Mr. Speaker, I agree with members. Let us observe the COVID protocols until and when that time comes and we are okayed by the Ministry of Health and the world over. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Member for Alego Usonga.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I agree with everyone that it is important for us to observe these protocols. But Honorable Speaker, in line of the new regulations, where the country is now free, I think it's important for us to free this House also. Secondly, when members complain that when we fill the House, we will be able to, we will be exposed to COVID. Some of the members are attending very large rallies outside there, and they are not caring about the health of the members of the public. Yeah, last week, Honorable Duale was in a very big rally in Juja, where he was even accusing the president of some stuff. So I think let us lead by example by failing to attend large rallies, and when we come here, let us free members. In fact, Honorable Speaker, there are some members who have not had a chance to speak in this House because of the COVID protocols. When are they going to speak? And their constituents are waiting for them. Let us free the House. That is my view. Thank you.
Let them try to catch the speaker's eye. Member for Kitutu Church and North.
Put me on. I don't have a card. I'm on. Okay.
That's the more reason you should not speak.
Thank you, Mr. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me a chance to contribute on this emotive issue. Mr. Speaker, we should not treat COVID normally. Otherwise, it will treat us abnormally. Mr. Speaker, you have seen that countries which have been able to manage COVID, like a country like New Zealand, like China. When they see cases, 2-3 cases of COVID, they close down their borders. We must protect ourselves. Mr. Speaker, how many people have died out of COVID? Although we are not being told, some of our members who have passed on the last 1 year have died because of COVID. A lot of our constituents are dying of COVID. And let us not take a bad example that, oh, some of the politicians are having rallies all over the country without masks and whatnot. We should not copy wrong examples, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this House should provide for this country how the Kenya people should behave against COVID. And we must ensure, Mr. Speaker, I beg you, don't allow what my former boss is asking for. Don't allow it, because you will be condemning us to death. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
And I know you rarely come into the chamber on account of member for Seme.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this is not an issue that can really be decided by numbers or voting. This is actually a technical issue. When we closed on technical grounds. Even the opening of the country that we have said, basically the only thing that has happened is that the curfew has been removed. But even that announcement that removed the curfew indicated that all the other measures like social distancing, sanitizing, masks should remain. So this House cannot go ahead now and actually disobey that. We'll be giving a wrong message of what the president said. 2, being vaccinated is not foolproof. What is foolproof is that, what is sure is that if you're vaccinated, even if you get the disease, you have lesser chance of getting serious illness, but you can get the disease and spread it. So that is still there. Now we are comparing ourselves with other countries. The other countries that are opening us have got 60–70% vaccination. We are at about 2% or so of the whole population. So how can we make that comparison? Further, Mr. Speaker, even the countries with the 60 or 70% vaccination that have opened up are having problems. Europe is having problems. I'm sure in Britain, I know because of people there, the numbers are going up. In Germany, the numbers are going up. Israel was the first country to have 100% vaccination. The numbers are going up. So, Mr. Speaker, I think it would be wrong to make a decision on the basis of what we feel politically. I think it has to be technical, and we should actually not open this House until we have the data that indicates we should. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Member for Kitutu Masaba.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for giving me a chance to also add my voice to this very emotive matter. Honorable Speaker, COVID is still ravaging the country. But as you look at it, Honorable Speaker, we want to invoke your discretion because the number that is attending currently is about 112. And I would urge, Honorable Speaker, that within your discretion, this number can be increased slightly, and also urge the honorable members present, those who have not even been vaccinated, to be vaccinated, because if you are seated here and you have not been vaccinated, then it also shows that you are not responsible. We need to take note that we follow the conditions, but it will do us no harm, Honorable Speaker, that you can increase the numbers to levels that would also resonate with what is happening in the country. With that, Honorable Speaker, I would urge that you increase the number.
Member from Vita.
Bwana Spika, nataka kukubaliana na Mheshimiwa Duale vile alivyozungumza ya kuwa tusiwe watu ambao kwamba tunazungumza lugha nyingine hapa na tukiwa kule nje tunazungumza lugha nyingine. Sio kwa Wakenya hawatuoni. Kila mmoja hapa, kila mmoja ikifika siku ya Ijumaa, Bwana Spika, anaregea mashinani na adhara ya watu ambao kwamba inawazingira si chache. Kisha hapa tuweke sheria, yani sisi wenyewe kifalme ya kwa hapa hatufai kukaa baina ya watu wawili. Lakini tukifika kule nje, hakuna hata siku moja umesikia mtu akizungumza katika mkutano wa hadhara wa kisiasa akianza kuzungumza lugha ya kuwapeaneni nafasi watu wavute pumzi. Na kisha Bwana Spika, wengi hapa wamezungumza ya kuwa kuna tatizo nchi nyingine ile ambao idadi ya watu wamefanya vaccination ni kubwa. Lakini pia tukumbuke ya kwa mwenyewe Mwenyezi Mungu alivyoamua, hapa pia vifo vetu sio kama vakule. Huku miili yetu imeweza kukubali, Bwana Spika. Kwa hivyo tusiwe ambao kwamba, na mimi nimeleta Bwana Spika, ikiwa unakumbuka kuhusiana na ule mswada wangu, lazima nchi ifunguliwe sasa hivi. Suluhisho Bwana Spika ni kwa anayetaka kuingia katika jumba hili aoneshe tu cheti chake ya kuwa amedungwa sindano yake ya vaccination, watu waendelee kuishi na maisha yao. Kila tukikaa namna hii, na sisi hii ndio Wakenya wote wanatuangalia sisi sura zetu ni kitu gani ambacho kwamba tunafanya na ulaghai gani ambao kwamba tutakuwa tunaufanya na unafiki, ikiwa tunaanza kuzungumza ya kwa lazima tuweke mambo ya kupeana nafasi ndani ya bunge na ilhali nje tunajazana watu kwa wingi sana.
Member for Wajir South.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I do concur with my colleagues. One thing that is very important is that we must acknowledge that COVID-19 is no longer considered only as pandemic, but it is endemic. Endemicity of this disease does determine the level of virulence as well. And herd immunity is actually balanced through that. What I'm only trying to say here is that albeit opening up the economy, or albeit opening up pubs and clubs and time of closure is taken away, it does not mean that the condition continues, does not mean that the condition will not continue to be deteriorating in terms of the disease. And therefore, we must understand and undertake that rallies that are undertaken can become the hub of the spread of the disease. And therefore, we must curb political rallies that are totally unnecessary. I stop there. Thank you very much.
Member for Mogotio.
Thank you, Speaker, for giving me this chance also to say one or two about this disease. I think, as the President said, that the country is being opened. However, we see that this disease is still with us. We are still losing the loved ones, although the positivity rate has come down to around 0.5 to 1 point something, which indicates good management of the disease. I still believe that this disease is still dangerous, and I agree with Honorable Nyekal that let us keep the protocols. I don't think it costs much if we actually keep the masks on, because you don't know when you can get this disease, and it's quite dangerous when it actually strikes. We have seen people who have actually been vaccinated. General Powell of US had been fully vaccinated, but he was actually brought down by this disease. So I think we should not really underrate this disease, and I think unless we all agree that everybody who is working here in Parliament, not only the members of Parliament, but all members of staff are vaccinated, then we can agree to maybe allow opening up. Otherwise, I second that we actually keep the protocols in place. Thank you, Speaker.
Member for Kwanza.
Mr. Speaker, thank you for the opportunity. I want to agree with what my friend has said. Let's not be emotional. Positivity rate is low, yes, it's 0 point something, but it still come up. I think, to me, the Speaker, we should actually keep the protocol. Otherwise, we'll see, and remember one time, they said the rate was very low. His Excellency the President went to Kisumu, and we saw what happened. The whole nation is looking at us. Let's not be emotional. We come from different places, and this is a place where everybody comes from different places. I think let's not be emotional. I think let's keep the protocol, wait, and I request, Mr. Speaker, that you look at this from the technical point of view. I'm an economist. I don't know anything about the diseases. Let's have the technical team advise you. Let's cover the advice by the technical team. And then the whole world is looking at us. We make a mistake here, we'll be the ones to be blamed. The Speaker, let's keep the protocol. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I was answering a question which was brought. Yeah, and then I realized you gave me. But Honorable Speaker, let me weigh in this matter. That yes, it's true that the country has partially been opened. It's the curfew that was lifted. But at the same time, truth be told, like what members have said, is that the disease has not gone. It is still with us. And we must be quite careful how we handle a situation where I take the authority of Honorable Nyekal, that we are doing about 5 to 7% vaccination, when other countries that have done higher vaccination percentages are still having problems, others opening and closing. So I want to persuade the Honorable Speaker that even though there are politicians out there who are holding rallies without taking due consideration to protocols, the COVID protocols, let them carry their luggage, let them carry their own baggage there. But Honorable Speaker, don't carry ours, because in this house, we are a house of rules. We cannot just mess because we think other people are messing. We can as well do with what we have now, the current arrangement. And even if we were to review, you review it in accordance with the reviewed COVID-19 protocols. That is my submission, Honorable Speaker. Thank you.
For Matungulu.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want to suggest that we stick to our protocols for COVID. Mr. Speaker, I want to give this House a personal experience. I'm fully vaccinated. My wife was fully vaccinated, but she ended up getting COVID from our daughter. And things were very terrible for her, despite she was vaccinated, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this is not an issue just to imagine. This is a very, very serious issue. Mr. Speaker, if you look over the weekend, Latvia as a country has vaccinated 80% of their population. But as we speak today, this week, Latvia have gone on a lockdown because the disease is within the community. Mr. Speaker, the most serious part of opening up this chamber is that we have our colleagues who are not fully vaccinated. We have rallies over the weekend. And then on Monday, Tuesday, we are in this chamber whereby we are not even sure of a dilation. The whole afternoon, Macau here is sweating because the aircon is not working, Mr. Speaker. We must maintain our full COVID protocols, Mr. Speaker. Let's not trivial on this issue, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, if you look at the statistics of the country right now, we are just vaccinated less than 5% of Kenyans. We members of parliament over the weekend, we are interacting with those members of the public. The members of public at the constituency level, we still have Kenyans dying of COVID, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, there are statements which might look obvious, popular, but when we are dealing with the oath of the members and the leadership of the country, which is the National Assembly, we should not look popular anymore. We must show the country we maintain COVID protocols so that Kenyans can follow those COVID protocols to save other Kenyans. Honorable Duale, you are my friend. But this one, we can't agree. Because, Mr. Speaker, if you look at this chamber right now, we have seats which are reserved for members of parliament to come and debate here, but they are not here. They are empty. What are we trying to show Kenyans? Mr. Speaker, I will urge you and beg you, you are a man of wisdom. Reject that proposal from Honorable Duale and we maintain the COVID protocol after the experience I underwent with my wife. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Nominee 001.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. And as I rise to also weigh in on this issue, the Honorable Member who have just spoken was not even wearing his mask properly and was pretending to be one of the proponents of keeping COVID-19 protocols. It should start with you. Honorable Speaker, I think there have been review of this protocol over time. When we started, we had only a few members because we were staying at a social distance of more than 5 meters or 6 meters. Honorable Speaker, currently the reviewed protocol is that we can stay as far as we wear our mask properly a distance of 1.5 meters, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I think it is time that we give more members room to come into the House and debate, Honorable Speaker. And I think as now where we are at around 2 meters from each other, Honorable Speaker. If we can just make it 1.5 meters, Honorable Speaker, I think more members can access the chamber so that we can also have more contribution, Honorable Speaker. Unlike some of us who come very early, Honorable Speaker, some come a bit late and they find that the seats are already occupied and they may be having important issues that they will discuss. Honorable Speaker, but we should lead by example and always putting on our mask properly, Honorable Speaker, because properly means you have to wear your mask over your nose. It is even better you leave your mouth and cover your nose, because your mouth you can cover with your lips, but the nose can never be closed. It is always open, Honorable Speaker, and during sneezing, you can really project some organism, Honorable Speaker. So, Honorable Speaker, I think I support Honorable Duale that we should review our COVID-19 protocols. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Member for Geshogo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I think, Mr. Speaker, before you consider the request that has been made by Honorable Duale, it's good, first of all, to see where we are coming from and where we are going. Mr. Speaker, I know that for you to review the sitting arrangement in this House, you've always followed the requisite advice from the technical people. in my view, I would not say that you review to increase the numbers or you reduce. But, Mr. Speaker, within your wisdom, I'm sure you are able to seek some advice from a technical committee which can advise you on how to deal with this matter. And, Mr. Speaker, the request by Honorable Duale was very good for the members generally. But particularly, it doesn't seem to add up because there is no member who has come into this house and has not gotten a space to sit. So as we go on, because there are some matters that might also attract a lot of interest of the members, and during the voting, I think it's important that as you look into this matter, it is not within your discretion, neither at the discretion of this House through the voting or any other process, but through an advice of a technical committee which might comprise of health officials who are well versed with the matter. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for this opportunity. Mr. Speaker, I want to say that being the leaders that we are, we should always lead by example. No matter what happens out there, we should always be on the right. And therefore, I want to say we should not put our guards down as pertains COVID protocols. And therefore, I think we should continue following the protocols as we were doing before. Thank you.
Member for Pokot South.
I thank you, Honorable Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to weigh on the matter. Honorable Speaker, reviews are compulsory. That is the truth. Whether to increase or reduce, and therefore, Honorable Speaker, the review must be done. But then what guides the review, Honorable Speaker? This is my suggestion. In terms of people coming to the House and lacking seats, Honorable Speaker, that should not be the reason. I've been in this House, and I've never seen anybody coming and missing a seat, Honorable Speaker. That's the truth. Nobody. These are sufficient seats, except when we were doing that motion on some report of security. That's what I saw, then it is full House. That's number one, Honorable Speaker. Number two, if you look at the truth of what is going on, maybe people come into the House, Honorable Speaker, and wear this mask because we are on a TV or live discussion. You go to the lobby when people are having tea. What happens? Everybody's okay. To be honest, Speaker, people come and talk here as if we are talking in a moon. It's not true. You go to the lobby here when we are taking tea. It is true, Honorable Speaker. We are just talking and having tea like everybody else or everywhere, as if we are in your house. That's the truth. And this is Parliament, Honorable Speaker. So if we come to the House and lie to ourselves that we should not review, and when we leave here, people go to tea. You follow them, Honorable Speaker. They will be having no masks. In fact, there was an example, Honorable Speaker, in one of the newspapers. And what was happening was this person was showing a caricature of Kenyans discussing about Tanzanians not having masks. And you know how they were wearing, Honorable Speaker? They had their mask at the chin, and now discussing and saying, look at Tanzania, they have no masks. And yet, Honorable Speaker, actually the Kenyans themselves have no masks, Honorable Speaker. So reviewing is compulsory, Honorable Speaker. What you need to do maybe is to look at those protocols and also talk with those officials, that is health officials. But, Honorable Speaker, people talk because they are only watching the camera. When they leave this House, no mask, they are drinking tea, they are having lunch, they are discussing about what happened over the weekend. They even don't know where they came from over the weekend. Honorable Speaker, review is compulsory. How you are going to do it, you are guided by the health officers. I thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Very well, I think that suffices. And as you know, the protocols guide us in what we do. But of course, it is fair to appreciate and acknowledge what has happened in other areas, places of worship. There has been some increase, but public transport, places where you go in the evenings, most of you, they have also been reviewed. So there's nothing wrong with a review, save that we will be advised accordingly as to what is best for us in the circumstances that we are a chamber of 349, 350 in fact. So if we were to follow what was designated for others, perhaps there may be an upward review in the increase of numbers. We don't want any member to say that they have been unable to come and vote or participate on account that it wasn't possible to come because they fear that they are going to be infected by many of you. Yet they don't fear you when you are eating mandazi. So when you are out there chewing mandazi, nobody is worried about the other. But we obviously we already in the process of seeking some technical advice on the matter. Indeed, I can only thank the Honorable Duale for raising it today, because we, as the administration, were already in the process of seeking some advice on how best to address this situation. Because, see, constantly, sometimes you may even have a joint sitting of the House. When we have a joint sitting of the House, obviously 120 would be a very limited number. So, but it's good to at all times take the advice from the health professionals responsible for that. So that will come. Communication to addressing that issue will come. But it was necessary also to hear many of you, including the member from Matungulu,